Hello YouTube, my name is Daniel, and welcome to another edition of Education 180. You may be wondering why I'm sitting here making this YouTube video for you. Well, here's the deal. Today, I'll be talking about the fourth section in the Analytical Reasoning module on positional versus non-positional conditions. You may be wondering what positional versus non-positional conditions are. Essentially, in the Analytical Reasoning section of the LSAT, positional conditions will tell you in which order to place the objects, and non-positional conditions will tell you which objects to include and which objects not to include. Furthermore, the relationships between objects that are expressed in the conditions will either contemplate their position relative to one another, i.e. A cannot be placed next to C, or will simply be inclusionary, i.e. if A is on the shelf, then C must be on the shelf as well. Recognizing the presence or absence of a positional component to a condition can be instructive, particularly when a question contains both types of conditions. A question which contemplates the location of an object will likely only draw upon positional conditions, where a non-positional question will likely only draw on non-positional conditions. It is also important to be aware of the hidden premise. As one plots the conditions and prepares their diagram, it is wise to look to see what information follows from the conditions given. Very often you can flesh out a condition or express it in a more useful fashion. Sometimes there are even further conditions that flow as a consequence of the conditions given. It is this circumstance which is referred to as a hidden premise. Please take a moment to read through positional versus non-positional conditions question 1. Press pause, and when you are ready to continue, press play. Let's take a moment to read through the scenario together. A bookshelf must contain exactly 6 books displayed side by side. So we'll underline 6 books displayed side by side. 2 books will be selected from among 3 books by Henry Winslow, D, E, and F. Two books among 4 by Kate MacDonald, H, J, K, and L, and 2 among 3 from Lawrence Hawking, P, Q, and R. The following conditions must be met. 1. If L is selected, then Q is also selected. 2. If H is selected, then neither Q nor J can be selected. 3. If E is selected, then neither D nor K can be selected. 4. If both Q and J are selected, then Q is displayed to the left of J. And 5. E cannot be displayed in the 5th position unless one of Kate MacDonald's book is displayed in the 1st position. So let's break through the following conditions step by step. And when you are first practicing the analytical reasoning section of the LSAT, you may find it helpful to draw pictures so that you can better comprehend what the conditions are asking of you. So for the first part of the paragraph, the top part, up here, we represented the conditions with series of books. So for the first part, we have Henry Winslow, who wrote the books D, E, and F, and we must select 2 out of the 3 books from Henry Winslow. So it doesn't matter which 2, you just need 2 out of the 3. It could be D and E, it could be D and F, or it could be E and F, either or. For the second group of books, we have Kate MacDonald, who wrote the books H, J, K, and L, and for the bookshelf we must select 2 out of the 4. And finally, for Lawrence Hawking, he wrote the books P, Q, and R, and for Lawrence Hawking we must select 2 out of the 3. So in total, 2 plus 2 plus 2 will equal 6 books on the shelf. For the second half of the conditions, which is represented by this bottom part here, we represented with the pictures on the bottom half of the page. So let's go through each condition step by step. So for condition 1, if L is selected, then Q is also selected. So 1 is represented right here. If L, then Q. So if I just write out the word as normal, if, and I find that it is more efficient for me to use arrows instead of writing then. If you prefer to write then, you can write then. However, keep in mind that when you're doing the LSAT, time is of the essence, and the more efficient you can be with your symbols, the more time you're going to save and the better off you'll be in answering the most questions that you can as possible. Let's take a look at condition 2. If H is selected, then neither Q nor J can be selected. So condition 2 is represented right here. So if we have if H, then can't equal, recall that this is the can't equal sign, then can't equal Q or J. So that just means if H appears on the bookshelf, then Q or J can't appear on the bookshelf. Condition 3 is very similar to condition 2, but in this case we have if E appears on the bookshelf, then D or K cannot appear on the bookshelf. Condition 4, if Q and J appear on the bookshelf, then Q has to appear to the left of J. And condition 5, which is represented over here, E cannot be displayed in the 5th position unless one of Kate McDonald's books is displayed in the 1st position. So E can be in the 5th position only if one of Kate McDonald's is in the 1st position. So in other words, H, J, K, and L must equal 1. And also, just to help you identify it, let's erase the circles around the numbers. I'll represent the first 3 question or conditions are what we call non-positional conditions, which I'll represent in red. So it's telling us if this letter appears on the bookshelf, then this letter needs to appear on the bookshelf. Or if this letter appears on the bookshelf, these 2 letters do not appear on the bookshelf. So these don't tell us an order of the letters, they just tell us which letters to include, or which books to include and which books not to include, based on the scenarios that each condition gives. They don't give us a position, so they're non-positional. Whereas compared to 4 and 5, these do give us positions, so these are positional conditions. For example, in 4 right here, we know that if we have Q and J together, Q must appear to the left of J. So it's giving us a position instruction. J must be in the leftmost position of J, or just appear to the left of J. Whereas for 5, if E is in the 5th position, then one of Kate McDonald's books must be in the 1st position. So again, it's giving us positional instructions on what to do based on the scenario given in the condition. And also recall, when you go to write the LSAT, you might find it more efficient to use symbols to represent each of the conditions, so that you're not rereading the condition the conditions over and over and wasting ever so valuable time. So the top part is representing this paragraph. So HW is representing Henry Winslow. KM is representing Kate McDonald. And LW is representing Lawrence Hawking. And for the bottom part, we have if L, then, so recall the arrows represent then. If H, then can't equal Q nor J. If E, then can't equal D nor K. If Q and J, then Q has to come before J. You might find it better to reverse the arrow so that you know that Q comes before J. Either or works as long as you understand your symbols. And again, if you prefer to write then instead of the arrow, that can work too. Use whatever's more efficient for you to understand it. And the last condition, E equals 5 only if H, J, K, or L equals 1. Please take a moment to read through question 1. Press pause, and when you are ready to continue, press play. Let's take a moment to read through the following question together. Number 1 reads as follows. Which one of the following is an acceptable collection of books? So for these types of ordering questions, what I like to do is take a look at the conditions and see if any of the conditions are in fact broken. So let's start with the conditions down here. So I'll label them 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, just so it's easier to follow as you're listening. So A, which is right here, uses the following letters: R, Q, F, J, D, L. So first off, I'm going to look at each of the conditions and see if any are broken. So if L, then Q. So that one's follows the condition. Condition 2, if H, then can't equal Q nor J. So I don't see an H, so it looks like we're correct there. If E, then can't equal D nor K. I don't see an E in letter A, so we're good with that condition. 4, if Q and J, then Q must come before J. I see Q and J, and Q is coming before J, so we're good with condition 4. And E says can be 5 only if H, J, K, or L is 1. I don't see an E in letter A, so we're good with that condition. Therefore, we can conclude that A is the correct response. But just for argument's sake, let's take a look at the other conditions to see if any other are broken with the letters. So let's take a look at B. So we have K, F, Q, P, E, J. So for the first condition, if L, then Q. There's no L, so we're good with this one. Recall, Q can appear, but if L, Q can appear without the L appearing, but if L appears, the Q has to be there based on the condition. It's a necessary versus sufficient type of condition. For L to appear, it's necessary for Q to be there, but Q can be there without L having to be there. Okay, condition 2. If H appears, then can't equal Q nor J. We don't have an H, so we're good with condition 2. 3. If E, then can't equal D nor K. Well, I see an E, and I see a K here, so that means it breaks condition number 3. And we can eliminate B. C, has R, F, K, Q, D, H. So let's erase the check marks and let's start over. So if L, then Q. I don't see an L, so we're good for condition 1. If H, then can't equal Q nor J. I see an H and I see an Q, so therefore it breaks condition 2. And we can eliminate C. For D, we have P, D, H, L, F, R. So again, I'll erase my check marks. And we have, for the first condition, if L, then Q. We have an L, but where's the Q? So we know right away that it breaks condition 1. And we can eliminate D. Let's take a look at E. We have E, L, R, J, Q, D. So for the first condition, if L, then Q, we've got our L and our Q, so we're good for condition 1. If H, then can't equal Q nor J. I don't see an H, so we're good for condition 2. For 3, we have if E, then can't equal D nor K. Well, we have an E right here, and we have a D over here. So we know that condition 3 is broken because D can't appear with E. And this was condition 2 for D. Oh no, D was condition 1, if L, then no Q. So we can eliminate E, and A is our correct answer. So just to recap, A is the only answer that satisfies all 5 conditions. A is the correct answer. Please take a moment to read through question 2. Press pause, and when you are ready to continue, press play. Let's read through the following condition together. If J is displayed in the first position, which one of the following books must also be selected? So I'll highlight the key points. If J is in the first position, which one of the following books must also be selected? So whenever I see must also be selected, I'm going to be looking for other scenarios in which I can find that it doesn't have to be selected to try and disprove what the question is asking. So firstly, I'm going to put J in the first position. And I'm going to draw a box around J to constrain it, and so that I know that I'm not going to be moving J. So which one of the following books must also be selected? So secondly, I'm going to go to the conditions and see which letters cannot be included with this question. So first off, I know that if J is in the first position, right over here, I know that I can't have Q because it'd break the fourth condition. If I included Q, it would have to come after J if J was in the first position. So I can take my Q up here, and I can eliminate Q. What else? If I can't use Q, then I can't use L based on the first condition, because if L appears, Q has to appear. So I can take my L up here and cross it out to eliminate it. What else can I conclude? I know if I can't have L and Q, if I have J in the first position, I know that I can't have H based on the second condition, because H can appear with J. So I'm going to take my H up here, and I'm going to cross it off so that I'm not tempted to use it. What else am I? If Q and J, if E, then can equal D nor K. So let's count to how many letters I have left. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So one thing I notice about the third condition, if I use E, then I can't use D nor K. So what if I were to use E? Well, if I were to use E, then I wouldn't be able to use D or K. So let's pretend that I use E. Let's leave it down here. And let's pretend that I'm going to cross out D and K. The problem with using E is that it would leave me with 1, 2, 3, 4 letters, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. So if I were to use E, it wouldn't leave me with enough letters to fill the spaces. So I know that I can't use E, otherwise I would run out of letters. So instead of using E, I'm going to bring it up here, and I'm going to bring D and K back down. I will cross out E to eliminate it. And now let's just make sure I have enough letters for the spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're good to go. 5 letters, 5 spaces. So let's bring them up. To fill the spaces. And then I'll just double check to make sure that they meet the conditions. So if L, then Q. There's no L, so we're good there. If H, then can equal Q nor J. There's no H, so we're good there. If E, then can equal D nor K. There's no E, so we're good there. And there's not Q and J, so we're good there. And there's no E. And sometimes it's a good idea just to check that you meet these conditions up here too. So H and for HW, we need 2 out of the 3 of D, E, and F. So we have D and F. Let's represent the HW in blue. For K and M, we need 2 of the 4, H, J, K, and L. We'll represent that in green. We've got H and J. For LW, we have P, Q, R, so we have P and R right here. So we've met all the conditions. So now which one of the following books must also be selected? So we can just look at what letters we have and eliminate the ones that aren't selected. So for A, we have E. E is not selected, so we can eliminate E. For B, we have H. H is not selected here, so we can eliminate that one. For C, we have L. L is not there, so we can eliminate that one. We see P is selected, and we see that for E, Q is not selected. So we know that D is our correct response. So just to recap, based on the conditions, we can eliminate E, L, Q, and H. The only one left in the options is P. Therefore, D is the correct response. Please take a moment to read through question 3. Press pause, and when you are ready to continue, press play. We will continue. Let's take a look at the question together. If the books to be displayed are Q, R, L, J, F, and D, and if L is to be displayed in the first position, then which one of the following books cannot be displayed in the second position? So these are the letters that we're using. And L is constrained to the first position, so I'll draw a box so I'm not tempted to move it. And which of the following books cannot be displayed in the second position? In other words, right here. So let's grab our letters that we're going to be using. So you have Q, R, L is already in the first position, J, F, and D. So it's sometimes just a good idea to try each of the letters to see which ones won't go. So let's try what happens if we were to put D in the second position. If D were to go in the second position, we're left with Q, R, J, and F. So let's take a look at each of the conditions to see if this fits. So if L, then Q. If H, then can't equal Q nor J. We're good there. We don't have H. If E appears, then can't equal D nor K. E does not appear, so we're good there. If fourth condition, if Q and J appears, then Q has to be to the left of J. So fourth condition gives us a hint. We know that if J were to appear in the second position, so let's swap it with D. If J were to appear in the second position, it would break condition 4, because Q has to appear to the left of J. So therefore we know that J cannot appear in the second position, and C is our correct response, because it will break condition 4. So we don't even have to look at the other questions, because we can determine that C, based on the fourth condition, is our final answer. So let's do a brief recap. Based on the fourth condition, if L occupies the first position, then J cannot occupy the second, as Q must come before J. C is the correct response. Please take a moment to read through question 4. Press pause, and when you are ready to continue, press play. We will continue. Let's take a moment to read through the following question together. If Q, J, and F are the first 3 books to be displayed, not necessarily in the order given, which one of the following books cannot be displayed in the 5th position? So let's highlight the key points. If Q, J, and F are the first 3 books to be displayed, not necessarily in order, which one of the following books cannot be displayed in the 5th position? So the place in question is the 5th position right here. So we've got Q, J, and F already in the first 3 spots. So one thing I know about the 5th position is I immediately clue into condition 1, 2, 3, for 5. And 5 says E equals 5 only if H, J, K, or L equals 1. So then I go to look at 1, and I see that it's a Q, and Q is not part of H, J, K, or L, so I know that E cannot appear in the 5th position. So I look to see if it's an option choice, and yes it is. It's question A. So I can determine that E is the correct response based on the conditions given. Based on condition 5, H, J, K, or L must occupy the first spot in order for E to occupy the 5th position. If Q, J, and F occupy the first 3, we know that E cannot be in the 5th position. A is the correct response. Please take a moment to read through question 5. Press pause, and when you are ready to continue, press play. Let's take a moment to read through the following questions together. Which one of the following books cannot be displayed together with L? So our question choices are A, we have D, E, H, J, and K. And let's highlight the key points. Which one of the following books cannot be displayed together with L? So in other words, L can appear with this letter at the same time. So let's try each of the question options one by one. So first off, we know that if L appears, then Q appears. Now if Q appears, then we know that H can appear based on the second condition. So I look at condition Q, condition 2, and I have Q here, and if Q appears, H can appear. So I go to look at my answer choices, and I see that H is the third option, so I know that this is our correct answer. Based on condition 2, we know that if we have L, we must have Q. If we have Q, then we cannot have H. Therefore, C is the correct response. Please take a moment to read through our final question 6. Press pause, and when you are ready to continue, press play. We'll continue. The question reads as follows. Which one of the following books must always be selected? So this is where the hidden premise comes in. If you're a smart cookie and you can pick it up before answering the question or arriving at number 6. So let's take a look at the first part of the conditions, which is right here. And it comes into play with this condition right here. So for HW, we need to pick 2 out of these 3 books, D, E, and F. And we know that if we pick E, then we can't pick D. But we still need 2 out of the 3, so it would be either E and F, or F and D shown together. In either of these 2 cases, F is selected. So since we need 2 out of the 3 for HW, and since out of the 2 cases F is always selected, we can use this hidden premise knowledge to help answer our question. I do see for 6 that B is the correct answer. And if you are unable to clue in on the hidden premise when you're doing the LSAT, you can still solve it by working out the scenario step by step, but it will take more time to answer the question. But because of this hidden premise, we save some valuable time, and we can pick up on the case that B is the correct response. Must always have F based on the third condition because you must have 2 books from Henry Winslow, so B is the correct response. Once again, thank you for watching us. Don't forget to like us on YouTube, and on behalf of Education 180, happy LSAT writing.